Everyone has the ability to be successful. The one thing people can't take away from you is your education. The MBA definitely was an encouragement. Was it the deciding factor? No. Dad, wherever you are, I'm blaming you. Everyone, Sam Patel again. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. We're gonna be diving deeply into, guess what? Me. I have the opportunity of having one of my best friends and colleagues with me, Alicia. Alicia, say hi to the world.
Hi, everyone.
It is a great pleasure to have her today. She's going to try to crack the shell, and that is myself, trying to dig deeply into the layers of my life, my failures, my successes, the dark, the bright, everything. Let's see what she can crack out of me. I'm looking forward to it. Once again, if you want to learn more about me, before we get started, hit that subscribe button so we can learn more as we go on this journey together. Alicia, how you been?
I've been great, Sam. I'm actually super excited to be here and that you just gave me permission to dig anything out of you that I can.
Well, hey, I don't know if I gave you permission. I don't know if I've given full consent, but hey, we'll figure it out together. Let's see what you got for me today.
So one of the things that I want to talk about with you today, Sam, is I have a lot of people that come to me and kind of talk about different business topics, but I want to know where you are today. What kind of struggles and failures had you previously faced?
Yeah. Hey, that's a question that I like asking business owners. So I guess it's fair to ask me too. There's been a lot of failures, I think, through life. And before, I think it was mainly focused on, hey, let's not talk about these failures. Let's pretend they didn't happen. People are always ashamed of the failures. And I'll be honest, I have probably felt that even up till today. But over the years, I've realized that admitting to them and talking about them is actually good for not just myself therapeutically, but also the world and inspiring other business owners and entrepreneurs. I'll say this. I think that the biggest failure that I can probably say is that, I didn't take the traditional path of what my friends, family, and colleagues thought I was going to take, going through med school and graduating through that. And then the world spotlight is on you of, okay, what is he going to do next? Is he going to go work at a hospital? Is he going to go build a clinic? Is he going to go specialize, go to residency? What is he going to do next? And I think that spotlight scared me because I was living for other people. I think I was living in that spotlight and trying to act out the future, but not my future, everyone else's version of it. And I think that really right there, I felt like I was a failure because I was like, hey, I'm going to go down this non-traditional route. I'm not going to go down the traditional route after years of school of practicing medicine. I'm actually going to go into being an entrepreneur and building clinics and scaling clinics and opening med spas. And so I think that junction was very difficult for me. I felt like I failed. I said, hey, man, I'm just going to go down this route. And I felt like I almost settled.
Do you feel like you were failing yourself or your family the most?
Hey, that's a great question. And I think I'm glad you asked that because it was not, originally I thought I was failing myself. I thought, hey, man, I'm not doing what everyone else is doing. I'm just going to go do this because I have a passion for it. And maybe I'm taking kind of, the underground route to being successful. But then I recognized that I think it was my family, my friends that I failed. Because they had these expectations of, I'm a first generation child, right? My parents were born and raised in India. They came here in the 80s with my brother. And then I was born in South Florida. And so there was they made a lot of sacrifices, right? Sacrifices to come here with no education. The stereotypical Indian story that we came with $7 in our pocket. That was them. That was their story.
It's funny that you say that because it's usually $7 most oftentimes that I hear. Sometimes
$7.
It's $3, but your parents were $7.
$7, they counted it. I don't know if it's true or not, but they came with that. And so I had this whole pressure put on me of, hey, you have to succeed. You have to become a lawyer or engineer or a physician. Those were the three choices. There was nothing else. And and to my family and to my parents, they were never really pressuring me. I think that was just kind of general society of our culture having pressure on us. Like, hey, the spotlight's on you. Your parents came here. They sacrificed everything. You better go through and be a physician and practice in the hospital or practice and be a cardiologist or be a surgeon. And so that pressure was there, not so much from my family. I think it was just culturally, one level above them, actually. And I think that culture, I realized we're not living in the motherland. We're not living in India. We're living in America. And there's that stereotypical American dream. So that failure that I, really felt for such a long time, to be honest with you, more recently have recognized that it wasn't really a failure. It was really an opportunity. It was me kind of breaking through that cultural mold that had deemed being a failure. And I realized that we're living in the United States, and that's an American dream that we're following, sure, not a failure of the motherland. So,
I think that it's interesting you say that, just because I've known you for years and I kind of know your past and a lot about your family as well. But with your family wanting you to kind of follow this path of a lawyer, a physician, some type of, career in that manner, and not so much the entrepreneur, which your dad was following. Yeah. But you've kind of positioned and you are following in your dad's footsteps. Do you think that he was a big inspiration as far as you following the business entrepreneurial side because your dad developing his businesses?
Yeah, Dad, wherever you are, I'm blaming you. No, seriously, he's the one that really had kind of indirectly inspired me to be an entrepreneur, right? He owned a lot of, convenience stores, liquor stores, a lot of strip malls and plazas. He went to the commercial real estate arena. So I just was used to seeing that. It felt normal. It felt natural. It felt like it was part of our DNA. And since the beginning, he had told me, Sam, don't ever be kind of married to an occupation that you have to do a 9 to 5 and you could at any moment get fired. So he had always told me, try to be an entrepreneur, but also do it in a professional setting. That whole saying of the one thing people can't take away from you is your education. And that's what he hit home to me. But yeah, he's been a huge inspiration, my mom and my dad, in becoming an entrepreneur. I think I learned the fundamentals of that from them. They had taught me the sacrifices you need to make, the risks you need to take. My dad took a lot of risks, not just with his life in coming into this country with that $7, but also with us, going and working, building stores, taking massive risks, putting me through private school. And, they barely had the means to do that. So they took risks. And I think that as an entrepreneur now, that risk-taking ability, I've learned from them. So yeah.
You are definitely a risk taker.
Yeah.
And I know your biggest, concept of life that you always say is that you're going to figure it out.
Oh yeah.
And I think that goes down to risk taking, and it all falls back to your dad and where he has kind of brought you to kind of shape you and form you into the person that you are.
100%. Yeah. My motto is we'll figure it out. Right. When clients come to me and they're like, Sam, how are we going to do this? My answer is we're going to figure it out. When my wife asks me when I buy something stupid, like a new watch or a new car, or I want to go on a vacation, and she's like, can we do this? Are we going to be financially okay? We're going to figure it out. When we open up new businesses, even with you, what have I always told you? We're going to figure it out.
Yes.
And I think that that's just kind of that first generation immigrant sort of motto, is that, hey, we have no idea what we're doing, but we're going to figure it out. And I think that motto has now kind of graduated into the model of, hey, that's what other entrepreneurs should figure out too, is what is it that's bothering you and how are you going to overcome it? We don't know, but we're going to figure it out.
And I've noticed a lot of that translate over to the clients that you work with and helping build their business. One of the big things with figuring it out is when clients come to you and it's like, hey, Sam, how should I diversify my clinic? What should I bring on next? This device that I really, really want is very expensive. How am I going to afford this? And you write out numbers and you let them know, hey, this is how many patients you need to have to be able to make the minimum device payment. And now I know that you're going to overshoot. You're going to be doing a lot more revenue and seeing a lot more patient volume than just that minimum payment. But I think that comes down to you saying, hey, I want this car, I want this watch. How am I going to afford it? How am I going to make this work?
I think that it's just, we live in a fear-based society. I think that that's just kind of a common knowledge now. And my big thing is, I had that fear in a different way. I lived in a fear-based society by my culture. My culture put a lot of fear into me, and I don't want to take away from my culture. I'm very, very proud of, my heritage and my background, but that fear of being successful, for me was cultural. I think in today's world, fear of being successful is just a thing in the United States because it's a fast-paced society. We have so many resources there, but at the same token, it's difficult to be successful in this country. It's very expensive to live here. Insurance and taxes, we just came through tax season and that's not fun. But there's different types of fear. And I think that mine has been just inherently as a youngster and as an Indian and just culturally, I've had fear of being successful and really being successful for my heritage, for my people back home, for my parents who sacrificed a lot. Not so much the fear of, hey, we're going to be successful in this country because you're American, you're given so many resources. I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs feel now. Everyone's got different types of fears. And I think mine have just been from that cultural fears as a child. Do those still exist today? Somewhat, I would say. It's always going to be there. I always meet surgeons, and then I meet, dermatologists, and I meet cardiologists, interventional cardiologists. That's what I wanted to go into at one point. And then I realized how miserable their lives are. No offense to the cardiologists out there. You guys do good work. Keep doing what you're doing. But
They're
nonetheless,
not working a traditional 9 to 5 office practice hours.
Everyone's got their own goals. And I think that my goals were to have balance. My goals were to have autonomy on my own life. And I really destroyed the fears. I punched fear right in its face. And I said, you know what, screw you. I don't care what the culture is going to say. I don't care what the relatives are going to say, because at the end of the day, I'm not living for them. I'm living for me. And I think that as I grew up, and this sounds like this was years and years ago, it was really just 5-6 years ago, this kind of epiphany happened that I realized, I'm not going to have these handcuffs of life on me. I'm going to break them, and I'm going to really just be free in this world, because this country's got a lot to offer. And it certainly is not just by a professional education,
I do feel as if you followed that path of success and the traditional career path that your parents wanted you to take, but you found something that was a little bit more interesting. And I know that you did your dual when you were in, medical school. You also were working on your MBA at the same time.
Yep.
Is that when you found that the passion for business and more the entrepreneurial side is what was interesting you at the time? Or when did you decide that that was more the path that you wanted to take?
Yeah. So the MBA definitely, was an encouragement. Was it the deciding factor? No. I think what it was is, when I was in my medical school rotations, actually here in Chicago, I had met a physician. He was my internal medicine preceptor. He was a very hardworking person, one of my mentors, even to this day. And he had owned all of his own clinics, and he kind of was on both sides of the coin here, but he worked ridiculous amount of hours. He had 2 kids as well that were in high school. And I looked at his life and realized, wow, like he was an inspiration for hard work, but also he was a bad example for what I wanted to do. I looked at him positively, but I also looked at his life negatively. In his life, I'm sure he enjoys it, right? And once again, everyone's got their own path. But for me, I couldn't resonate with it. Him working in so many hours, not that we don't, but he was working at a later stage of his life. He's much older, and he still was a workhorse. And that sacrifice of him not even being there for his kids, it's a sacrifice he was willing to make. I'm not willing to make that. So I made a decision at that moment. I'm not going to be this healthcare grunt. I want to really break that mold. I'm going to kind of take a really sharp pivot and go into this trajectory of being an entrepreneur and buy my clinic and buy a clinic and go down the non-traditional, non-medical, non-practicing route. And I had a lot of judgment put towards me. I think even to this day there is, but to be quite frank with you, I could give a shit less because the judgment I have is on my own life.
So Sam, why do you think that you have been able to overcome these challenges and others have not?
I don't think it's that others have not. I think that everyone has the ability. I think everyone just doesn't have that motivation and that inspiration to do it. Everyone has the ability to be successful. even the people that have failed, the people that are still in the trenches, that are still struggling to push through, they're going to succeed. The thing that I think really prohibits them is people around them to support them. And I think that that's what it was for me. We can't do things alone. I think that if you look at the most successful entrepreneurs and business owners and professionals, they always had some level of support, whether it was their mom, their dad, their husband, their wives, whatever it may be. And my parents and my wife and my friends that were close to me were that support. Now, the key thing here is I was scared to ask for help.
You've always been. You don't like to ask for help in any situations.
I don't. But there was a moment where, when I was transitioning to this non-traditional world, I was scared to tell people. Like, me and my parents were in the dark. Even my wife was in the dark. They were like, hey, we can tell you want to do something different. Talk to us. And I was like, no, I'm good. I'll figure it out. Right. And
comes back down.
And I think that a lot of people, I think, in this world have that same notion. I think a lot of people are scared to ask for help. And that's what prohibits them from being successful.
I think that's where you've interjected, bringing it back to that physician that you worked with when you were in, your rotation. I think coming back to that, you're thinking, how can I save these physicians? How can I pull them out of this? And what you do right now, day to day, typically in your business, you're trying to find a way for an exit for these physicians to be able to get some time back in their lives. And that's why I like you helping diversify their clinics, bringing on other technology, figuring out what staff they need to have in place. So maybe they could take that extra day off. Maybe they are able to supplement their income and not rely so heavily on insurance. So I feel even before you probably knew it, you were trying to figure out a way to help save these physicians from getting burnt out and being able to have more of a life, the life that you were trying to take there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a motivation to inspire not just successful physicians, but people that, are barely trying to figure out their lives. I mean, we meet so many people that are tens and if not hundreds of $1,000s in debt, and they're having very tough time succeeding. They're in school debt. They're in credit card debt. They are pulling second and third mortgages on their home. And that's frightening. But I have always told people, ask for help. There's so many resources out there. And I think as a consultant now, that's what the most gratifying thing for me is I'm kind of that help, or I'm a piece of it. And telling people, listen, I know that you feel like you're a failure, but you're not always going to be a failure. If you continue to say that you're going to be a failure, you're going to not ever succeed. And I think that I can resonate with that because I felt that way for so long. I felt like a failure for so long. And so even to this day, I don't feel like I've completely succeeded. I think everyone should always feel a little piece of failure, because then they're always going to want to fight for success. So even people look at me and they're like, hey, you're successful. I'm like, no, not completely. Not yet.
You've always said, I'm never done. We're never done.
No, I don't think anyone's ever done.
Never done from trying to succeed.
Right.
So what would your biggest piece of advice be to anyone that is currently struggling or trying to overcome failure themselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing is that there's help out there, that there's always a brighter day ahead. I spoke with a good colleague just this past weekend when we, went to this conference here in Atlanta, and he had mentioned that every single day he tries to be a better version than yesterday. And that's every single day is getting better and better, because yes, today sucked, but guess what? Tomorrow doesn't have to. And I think that was huge and motivational factor for me. It was such a simple kind of concept.
Every day you're able to wake up with a fresh opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think that for everyone out there that feels like the world's ended, that their life has been a waste, you still have so many years ahead of you, days ahead of you, moments ahead of you, opportunities ahead of you. So you can sit and sulk on your couch or in your bed and kind of be defeated, then you're going to be defeated. Or you can just get outside and go find opportunity. Now, I know that's easier said than done, but ask questions, go network, go learn.
Find a mentor.
Find a mentor. Oh, I love that you said that. Find a mentor. And I think that that was my issue early on is I didn't want
to ask for help.
I didn't want to ask for help. Yeah. And the moment I asked for help, so many opportunities were coming to me. I asked for help from my parents. I asked for help from other physicians. I asked for help from my friends. And then they started showering me with help.
And that's where it comes down to you saying, listen to everyone's opinions, but, collectively make your own decision.
Absolutely. Yep.
And you've also said many times to, you can fail, but you're never going to fall farther than the ground.
Yeah. I always tell people, hey, you're going to get knocked out. You're going to fall to the ground. But I mean, you have a choice. You can either lay on the ground and sit there and complain, or you can just get up and be like, all right, that hurt. That sucked. Let me keep walking forward. Let me keep marching forward. And then you get hit again. You fall. It's fine. You get back up. You start punching your way through life. And a lot of people, I think, get punched and then they just remain on the floor. They remain knocked out. But there's no reason to. Find someone to help you up. Ask your friend. Ask and find a mentor.
There's always someone to lean on.
There's always someone there. There's always someone out there.
I really appreciate you sharing your story with your struggles with failure and that you're openly admitting that there are still failures that
Absolutely.
You are overcoming, but you continue to find ways to build upon it, and as well as helping everyone else out there.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing all that. I'm going to come up with some additional questions that everyone's always, burning to know about you, and hopefully we'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper on a future podcast.
Yeah, no, hey, I appreciate you digging deeply. It was actually fun kind of reflecting on my life as well. And I appreciate you being on here and helping the world kind of learn more about myself. So I appreciate it. For those of you that have not hit subscribe, do not fail to hit subscribe. You can fail at other things in life, but please do not fail to hit that subscribe button so we can succeed together as we go through life. If you guys have questions, comment below. If you have any sort of curiosities, or if you want to just talk about any failures you've had, please reach out. That's what I'm here for. And I would love to engage with you further. So make sure you subscribe and comment below. And so that way we can succeed through the future together. I will see you all soon. Alicia, thanks again. Always a pleasure. Guys, I will talk to you guys in the near future. Over and out. Take care.